So, we've reached this point in baseball season. An all-star break is set to come up, and we're already looking at who's going to be taken. So, why not use this time to look at where everyone stands going into July? Well, at least where they're at as of June 22nd, and because standings are going to change by the time I upload this. But who cares? Here's what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at where they are based on the order they're set to take someone in the draft. Which means we're not going based on division or anything. We're going by based on draft position. And see where they're at this season. Who according to the source that I'm using, mean they are mocked to take what I think they should get, and then you see how things go. So, to begin our little adventure, we start with the first overall pick, and that's the Pittsburgh Pirates. As in the Pirates have been surprising, to say the least. They're under 500 at this point, yes. Yes, they're going to stay at under 500 for the day this video goes up. But they've been doing a lot better than usual, surprisingly. I don't know how they're able to make this work, but they seem to make it work. Er, so that's what they're looking at. And on sportingnews.com, they're projected to take Dylan Cruz out of LSU to an outfielder. Or based on how their play has been, they could really use some bullpen help. So that's where I stand on them. And next up, we have the Washington Nationals. Things have not been going well for the Nationals as of late. They're gonna stay under 500. It they're at they're gonna be staying under 500. They're dead last in the division and of the NL East. They're in the middle of a I want to say retooling tanking thing, and they're currently set to take Paul Skeens out of LSU. Based on what they're going through right now, they're going to need a new everything. They're going to need a new everything at this point. No question about it. No question about it in the slightest. Next, we move on to Detroit and talk about the Tigers. They hold the third overall pick. Yeah, third overall pick going in. And the AL Central is already looking up to be a literal bloodbath. Uh, they're tied with the White Sox. Somebody is going to take sole possession of third, and based on how things look, well, they actually tie for a number of wins. The Tigers are third in the division, but they can still try to take that precious number one spot. Yeah, the division's become like a joke at this point of the season. We don't know if anybody's going to come out of it victorious proper. For all we know, it could be like tank division of some sort. Or it's hard to say at this point. I mean, and they're projected to take Florida outfielder Wyatt Langford. Or do I think this would be a good choice? Well, anything is possible with this division, the AL Central. Anything is possible with this division, so it's hard for me to say. But now we move on to the fourth overall pick. That's the Texas Rangers. There's Rangers are actually in the lead for the AL West at this point. When they're above 500, competing against the Astros and the Angels at this point in time. Um, but they can still easily lose that spot because there's still the inevitable September collapse. Abs- But the fact they're putting out a good team at this point is surprising. They're also set to take an outfielder, or known as Walker Jenkins, out of South Brunswick High. You might be wondering why they're taking a high school student. Well, well, something that might be worth mentioning. There's a chance that if they come straight out of high school, they'll be put in like a farming team if they have one. One similar to how it's done in like the National Hockey League, just for example. Well, they're fresh out of high school, they have yet to go to college. There's there's a lot of things that can happen. So I think that if they do go with Walker Jenkins, that he's going to be sent down to whoever their farming team is to develop before he gets brought up to the majors. It just makes more sense. And I can say the same thing for the projected mock draft pick for the Minnesota Twins. They're set to take Max Clark out of Franklin Community High. A lot of outfielders mocked for the top 5 on this sporting news thing. Surprised. But there's still a variety here. But just like what I mentioned, they'll probably send Max Clark down to do the farming teams before they do anything significant. But the Twins, they're also a part of the AL Central, which is already looking to be a bloodbath, as mentioned earlier. Er, and there's not much for me to reiterate. Yeah, not much. But now we go on to everybody's favorite laughing stock of the Oakland Athletics. Good old fashioned Oakland. And let's see what is there to talk about. Intentionally getting rid of your best players to where you need a new everything. And ownership screwing the fans out of the team. Lot land and up near the Las Vegas area. Set to pen approval for relocation to Las Vegas. Nevada state legislature approving of stuff. Vegas fans don't want anything to do with the Athletics. Ownership sucks. And it's no surprise that at this point in the season, they are dead last in the AL West. As they may crack 20 wins and by the time this video goes up. They may not. Not. They are looking for that precious 20th win. And a lot of stuff is going wrong in Oakland. It just looks like they're intentionally tanking And they're set to take Chase Dollander out of Tennessee. They need a new everything. That's what they need. They need a new everything. No questions about it. And now we move on to Cincinnati with the Reds. It's in the Reds. It's are leading the NL Central. They can still lose that to Milwaukee or Chicago or Pittsburgh or St. Louis. It's a tight race right now. Now, and they were they're actually on like a winning streak. Now that can easily come to an end before this goes up, obviously. But Cincinnati surprising people. Well, at this point in the season, they're projected to take Rhett Loader out of Wake Forest. It's okay. I'm not familiar enough with any of these baseball prospects, but at least I'm here to tell you what their mock draft says according to sportingnews.com. Next up, the Royals. I don't think there's much for me to talk about here for the Royals. They are last in the AL Central. Oh, but at least they're not the Athletics. Right? Right? They're currently in the process of trying to get a new stadium. Jeez. I'm supposed to be a professional, and this is what happens to me. You water out of the eyes and stuff. I'm yawning. I'm trying to be professional over here. Anyways, the Royals are looking to get a new stadium in Kansas City. So we'll be keeping an eye on that and providing updates should we need to. We can even break our regular schedule for some of these if we need to. We'll keep you up to date. But for now, they're sitting dead last and have a bit of a hurdle to get over. They're set to take Kyle Teal out of Virginia, according to Sporting News. So let's move on to the Colorado Rockies. He's in the Rockies. He's are dead last in the AL. No, not AL. They're dead last in the NL West. And they also have a bit of a task to go through. Uh, There are some things to go on here. They're They still have a shot at this point, but it's hard to say how good of a shot it'll be. The, According to Sporting News, their mock draft has them taking Braden Taylor. Er, and just like with all mock drafts, you can look back at them after the draft is over to see how many of them got right, how many of them they got wrong. That's why I want to mention in why some of these mock drafts exist. So now we move on to another favorite punching bag, the Miami Marlins. Is trying to take somebody out of Grand Canyon University, according to Sporting News, with Jacob Wilson. I don't think they'll go over to Grand Canyon for this one. Not when they're right behind the Braves, at least for the NL East. These they'll want a bigger name, I'm sure. They'll find the biggest name available for their needs. But what they should be considering is pitching. They could use some pitching. And they really could. And now we move on to the Angels. Angels. Always playing second fiddle to the Dodgers. But they can still fight for the AL West. They really can still play for that AL West title. They just need to avoid a late season collapse. Like typical stuff. They apparently these Sporting News thinks they need a first baseman because their mock draft has them taking Nolan Schanuel or the Chanul. I don't care. Somebody will correct me, I'm sure. Oh, FAU. Do I think would this be a good choice? Considering how the Angels have been, then anything would probably be better than nothing. I mean, plus, all they'll do is just go out and get big name players. There's in the same old Artie Moreno tradition. That's just how it goes. Now we move on to the Arizona Diamondbacks. As in the Diamondbacks are currently leading the NL West, but can still lose it rather easily. But with how things stand right now, how they lead the NL West. As it's an interesting situation. They they need to get a new stadium renovated. They could end up in a new stadium altogether. It's like renovation, get a new stadium in like Scottsdale or something. And there's a little something weird going on because as what the commissioner has come out and stated about out them and another team we'll get to in a bit. But overall, all the Diamondbacks are doing good. They may be looking to develop from within, according to Sporting News, is that they could possibly go with Colin Hoke out of Parkview High. Again, the recurring theme with anyone coming out of high school is that they're likely going to be sent down out to developmental farm teams. And now we have the Chicago Cubs. Cubs, do I think they'll go with Jacob Gonzalez? Doubtful. It depends on what kind of value they want. Because the Cubs are one of those confusing teams for drafting. But at the very least, they can compete for a competitive NL Central. Well, because of course they would be able to. Good. Jeez, I'm not getting much to work with, but maybe I'll be able to get something to work with for the Boston Red Sox. Oh boy, we need to talk about how bad they are doing at this point. Yes, they still have an open shot, but considering how bad they've been, they're not that much above 500. In AL East that has gotten more competitive, it's too hard to say if they can even get in. They would need a bunch of miracles and black magic. That's the issue. Uh, and I don't think taking a guy like Enrique Bradfield Jr. is going to help. Oh, but I really don't. Oh, it's just one of those things that no matter what they do, it's not going to help them out in the season. So now we go back to Chicago for the White Sox. This is the halfway point of our going over drafts. And the White Sox, they're not doing too hot. They've already played more games than the Tigers. But again, they're not in a good spot. So anything they take really help. They just gotta hope there's no busts going on. Only problem is that if they were to take a guy like Blake Mitchell, he's going to need to spend some time in the farm, just to make sure. Or that's the issue there for the White Sox. And now we got the San Francisco Giants, who are in the middle of a transitional period into a new era. They're still competing well against the Dodgers right now. Now, like that rivalry has gone away. But again, they're in the middle of a transitional period. Some of the great eights that are, some of the legends that are left on the team are going to be gone soon. And they need to start looking into what they can do to go into a new era. Um, so perhaps a guy like Tommy Troy may help. Maybe. I don't know. They're just grasping at straws. And now we got the Baltimore Orioles. Another surprise team at this point. Only possibly be looking at someone they can use to farm within. In fact, a lot of the later picks are projected to be high school guys that can be sent to farm teams. So I'm just gonna stop there. But the Orioles are not that far off from the A's, which we'll get to in a bit. But they are being surprisingly good. Then again, they usually do good in like the June, July stretch before or the period over. So it's not as big of a surprise as I would think. And now we got the Brewers. They're in need of a desperate renovation, and they could even need a new stadium altogether. They, the city's been threatened with relocation. Yeah, so they're in knack time. I mean, the Brewers are in the NL Central competing for a spot. Who knows what piece of mediocrity is going to come out of there? They're hard to say. It really is hard to say. I mean, they're projected to go 18th overall. I don't know if drafting a guy like Matt Shaw is going to help save the franchise from relocation. It's going to have to come down to the city. They're going to have to be better negotiators. They're going to have to use public funds. There's no question about it. No questions. And speaking of the Rays, one of the things that the Rays have been known for is small market ball, developing from within, and delivering talent. And but they're having an issue right now with a stadium. Tropicana Field was doomed from the start, and Despite the success, nobody's coming to their games. So they're in desperate need of a new stadium, or they could end up relocating. And options like Orlando and Nashville has opened up. The Rays are gonna have to figure out what they want to do soon, especially since they got shut down of the Montreal experiment. And no matter who they bring into the farm system, it's not going to fare as well for them long term. And now we got the Toronto Blue Jays. Is picking 20th overall. And much like the rest of the AL East, they still have a shot. Uh, there is a much more competitive division this time around, so getting into the playoffs won't be so easy. If they got lucky the first time, um, but they may not be so lucky this time. It's hard to say, with some of these teams. It really is. So as we move on to the Arizona Cardinals. Oh, wait, no, that's football. This is the St. Louis Cardinals. Well, they're different. But they both played in St. Louis at one time. How is this possible to get confused? Well, for one, they both have the same name. Two, they've both been around for quite a long time. And three, they both have the name Cardinal and feature a bird in their logo of red, black, yellow. Some white in there too. And I don't think selecting guys along the lines of Hurston Waldrep is going to help differentiate you. The only thing you have that the Cardinals don't is success, as in the modern age. Yeah, you can tell how confusing it's going to be. But St. Louis is dead last in the NL Central at this point. They can still bounce their way up in a competitive NL Central. Oh, yeah, I just wanted to talk about confusion stuff. And it's time for everybody's favorite topic. It's time for another season of punching their fans in the dick. The Seattle Mariners. There's long history of failure. Looks like they're currently on pace to continue doing so in the AL West this year. Maybe they have a shot of one-upping the Athletics this again. And they did so last year. They can do so again this year. It'll just be a tougher challenge for them. And their hope is getting that if they choose to go with a farm system approach, they can start preparing for a long-term success. As opposed to whatever the Athletics are doing. And now we get to the Cleveland Guardians. Cleveland, Cleveland, Cleveland. I don't care if you try to go for a farm system person or if you just go for whoever you can. What were you thinking with his name? And what luck are you having with this name in a bloodbath AL Central? What are you guarding? What are you guardians of? I don't get the name. Will this failure continue? Probably. It probably will continue given how things are going. Now we move on to my Atlanta Braves. They are still going as strong as they've been doing, and still proving that they can still compete. Yay, let's go Braves. Of course, we need to go through figuring out who's going to be joining the team next, and if they need to go through the farm system or what. Because we could use a way to get back to win another title. Now for the Padres, and there's no excuses for how they did last year. They're against the Phillies. They did the same thing before. They did the wrap and it failed for them. So they're hoping to not do so again if they go with a farm system. They may still go with someone else. But the A's are having a tougher time getting back there than before. Go figure, that's what happens. Is when you make such a deep run, and they're paying the price for it. They really are. And now everyone's unfaithful empire for New York Yankees. It was inevitable. Oh, but no matter who they pick, one thing will remain consistent. The players will be hated during their time on the Yankees, only to become more celebrated later. Unless your name is Babe Ruth. Go figure. And now we have the National League champion, Philadelphia Phillies. They're looking to defend their title. They're already having a tough time doing so. Oh, they really are having a tough time. They really are. Or and they're hoping to get someone to help bolster their chances. Wrapping up the first round, at least officially, is the Houston Astros. Those the defending World Series champs, looking to bolster their ranks this early on in the season. And they can really use that extra buff of since the Rangers currently lead the division. And so there's that going for them. In that sense. And to now, you may be wondering, but wait, you only went through 28 picks. Well, that's because Major League Baseball has this thing where their extra picks this can occur and some teams can be moved back picks. So that's why there was only 28 picks that were mentioned. But we're still gonna go over the last two teams is based on their draft order. Or which for this logic before we get there, the Seattle Mariners also have the 29th overall pick, which is still part of the first round because they had a player or winning Rookie of the Year after having been rated as either a top 100 prospect by MLB Pipeline, Baseball America, and or ESPN. It was on the opening roster. He won Rookie of the Year. So, Julio Rodriguez, for doing so, gave the Seattle Mariners the 29th overall pick so they can use some extra buff And they also have a thing called competitive balance rounds, based around the 10 smallest markets or 10 smallest revenue pools to receive an additional draft pick at the end. So the Mariners also get the 30th overall pick. The Rays get the 31st overall pick. And then the 32nd overall pick goes to the New York Mets. Why are the Mets so far down the list is at this point? Well, the reason is that they dropped 10 spots by exceeding the balance tax threshold by more than $40 million. So that's why they fell down to competitive balance round A and ended up 32nd overall. Oh, now where they stand in the NL East, they're already back to being the Mets before the season even started. So they need some healthy guys and stuff to keep themselves competitive. That's what's going on here. There for them, and they better hope they get something good. And continuing with the theme of there being some competitive balance round picks. 33rd overall goes to the Brewers. 34th goes to the Twins. 35 with the Miami Marlins. And for the same reason that the New York Mets did, having fallen to 36th overall, all due to exceeding the competitive balance tax threshold, is none other than the Los Angeles Dodgers. And, well, I think in the fact that they're already starting to experience what they're experiencing now in the NL West, L speaks for itself. Oh, they're battling San Francisco. They lost last year to the Padres. The Diamondbacks are on their little uprise skit. It before their inevitable collapse. Their only saving grace is Colorado sucks. There's not much else for me to say about this. And there are no mock drafts for these rounds either. Now we wrap up mentioning the Tigers have the 37th, the Reds have the 38th, and at long last, completely finishing in the first round is the 39th overall pick with the Oakland Athletics. Now, these can all be traded at different times, but one thing is consistent, and that is the end of our look at each of the different draft picks that can be done. And so, if you liked what you see here and want to see more, be sure to hit that like button and leave a comment and let me know what ideas you have as well. And be sure to subscribe to the channel to know when a new video goes live. Also, you can check out the latest video right over here. They're talking about what other stuff there is to talk about. You can also check the links in the description. Somewhere's down there. I can't really point that well. Out to where you can find the Twitch and a rotating Twitter, I think. And it's hard for me to plug, so well, if I don't have a professional way to do so. Oh, but I hope you still will take something out of this anyway. And as always, until next time, travel safely.